back to our show. You're listening to Brashonomics. I'm Ben Brashen, and a lot of people in a housing market, as we're looking at right now, are wondering maybe what their house is worth. A lot of people turn to online resources. Popularity of Zillow continues to thrive, but that may not be the place you want to find out how much your house is worth. Eric Robison joins us, managing broker with Keller Williams, who was also recently awarded Washington's Association of Mortgage Professionals and their 2012 Business and Humanitarian Leadership Award for Outstanding Real Estate Professional. Eric, how are you?
Good. Now that over my winter cold, pre-spring allergies.
Awesome. You sound.
I'm happy now.
You sound clear. You wouldn't fix your faucet for $5?
No.
No?
Well, it's kind of, $5 maybe cost-wise,
Sure.
But then there's the stress, the anguish, and all the time of the whole day trying to figure it out.
Call Jim.
I know. Jim told me he doesn't do that anymore.
I know. Yeah, right? Well, Eric, with the housing market heating up, everybody knows prices are going up. They see houses come off the market rather quickly. And a lot of people like to go look online to see what might my house be worth. Talk a little bit about auto valuations and this kind of phenomenon, which is online house prices.
Right. Everybody thinks everything can be done online. And yes, a lot can. We can look at photo galleries. We can look at comps of what's going on and trend reports and everything. But, sellers, buyers, both. I mean, I can tell you, I always hear it. Well, Zillow says.
Right.
And I go, well, Zillow's nice, but, they're probably wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And in the current market with it heating up and all, I'm finding more and more 9 out of the last 10 deals, they were totally off target. So I can't explain. I mean, I'm not their company representative, so I can't explain why they're not accurate. I just associate it with their behind the times.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then also you got to,
they've also never been to the house.
Well, exactly. They're just going off stats, and it's just a very broad range of stats that they're going off. But our market is very unique here. I mean, how many decades of homes are in one block in the city, And then who knocked theirs down and built the beautiful McMansion that's worth $950,000, but next door is still a little shack that needs to be torn down.
Mm-hmm.
You can't quite compare everything exactly. And it makes it difficult. And Zillow in their fine print will admit, that's why they give you a broad range, because there are inaccuracies. They don't know if there's a view. They don't know if, one block to one block could be a worlds of difference in our market here as to, because you're at the top of the hill, and those are the homes that have all the beautiful view of the lake. And then the one block over, they're all blocked by all those beautiful homes, and
Right.
they just see the back of a house.
Sure. Well, and I think that's probably a part of why it's so difficult for people to understand, well, my neighbor's is worth this. So that you're either coming to somebody like you, Eric, saying, well, I think my house is worth this, or I think it's, it's worth that, or no matter what it is, as you said, people are reliant and they trust Zillow sometimes, or they trust these online resources more than maybe somebody who's in their house and actually going through the details step by step.
Right. And it's a conversation I have with all my sellers when we're determining price, and with buyers if we're determining, what's our offer, and if it's going to be a multiple offer situation, what is realistic as to where we would go to where it's still the right value on the home. It's just an education process. I mean, I'll always start with that as a starting point and say it's a starting point, but now let's see if it all fits into this. And, I won't look at just Zillow. I'll bring in Realist. I'll bring in some trend reports. I even have, I'll look at Case-Shiller Price Index and factor, using a formula with that where your price should be. And, a couple of years ago, they were a lot closer to being right on, but it all started last spring that suddenly I was like, wait a minute, they're off all the time. I'm doing this. What's going on? And I just think, they're not reflective of where the market's going right now.
Do you tend to see online pricing be higher or lower than what it should be?
Lately, it's been lower. And to my sellers, they're thrilled. They're like, wow, you think I can get that much? And I'm like, yes, I think we can, and we will. Buyers, they're not so happy.
Sure.
Because they're like, wait a minute. And that's a real serious conversation you need to have with your buyer, because they will sit down and say, well, this is telling me this is worth $50,000 less than you're telling me. And I'll bring out the comps and say, well, you tell me what you think. Because if you look at what's going on in this neighborhood and look at all the recent solds, all of these are above what Zillow's telling you.
So as a professional, how do you help people bridge that gap? I mean, you talked about it doesn't necessarily consider maybe views or remodels or the neighborhoods. Maybe it's a school district that's different one side of the street to the next.
Definitely affects price.
But there's really this gap. I guess it's really easy if you're a seller. Your house is worth more. Woo!
Well, yeah.
Gap bridged. But
then we have to find the buyer that agrees.
Exactly. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you're bridging that gap, right?
Yeah.
How do people come to that realization, or how do you help bridge that gap in value?
It's an education process. I mean, I'll sit down and walk through them with all the values out there. And then it's a process of going, let's start from point A to get to point C. Mm-hmm. And in the process, I'll start with various resources online that will tell us this. But then I'll start then bringing in trend reports for the zip code and say, here's median price, here's average price per square foot.
Sure.
And then eventually bring it into the comps. And I'll say, let's look at these homes. These I've actually been in. I can talk to you about the flow compared to your home we're going to sell. I can actually show you these photo galleries. I'll even take them out sometimes and say, let's go look at them. And usually by the time you get the comps and you're walking through these houses with them and stuff, they understand. I mean, it's like...
For better or worse.
Yeah, they finally will get it, and they'll see. Because I will reiterate to them, you are picking the price. I'm not. I am just trying to give you all the variables and the education so we make a wise decision together.
Because it would seem that as a seller, of course, you think your house is going to be worth more. And as a buyer, of course, you think you should be paying less, which I guess is where the whole negotiation process comes in.
Yeah, it helps a little. But, yeah, and then sometimes it's an education process. You still will get the seller who's just stuck on their price, and they will just sit. And usually if they're going to be stuck, I'll have a conversation about, okay, we'll give it everything we got, but let's make a guarantee here in 2 weeks we're dropping this price.
Sure.
If you don't have any offers or we were getting feedback that's saying you're overpriced. Buyers sometimes, it might be they have to go through a couple offers on homes and lose out and start realizing, wow, it's a competitive market.
Eric was right, not Zillow.
I need to maybe reassess my strategies and what we're looking at.
Where does Zillow or auto valuations work best? I mean, you talked about the differences in Seattle, why they vary so much. Are there places that it does work with better precision?
You're going to have a lot more accuracy if you're out in the suburbs and you have a tract development, there's 50 homes and they have 3 styles, and they're all going to be pretty easy to spot price fluctuations. I mean, in a situation like that, your curve of error is going to be very small.
Sure. So how do you end up, I mean, I guess, do you just tell people, look, it works here, it doesn't work here, and then it's again part of that education process?
Yeah, it's just part of the process. I mean, I just tell them, I'm not making the numbers. I'm just showing you the numbers.
I am not Zillow, and I did not buy or sell personally any of these houses, right?
No. Right. And it's, and generally I would say, they come around to it. Sometimes the seller will say, I really appreciate this, but now I think maybe I should wait a year, Eric. And I'm like, fine, we'll reassess this in a year.
Yeah.
Because of that. And some buyers afterwards go, I love that house, but I realize there's 3 offers. I'm not going to really be able to compete on this one because I thought I could offer less, and so they'll readjust where they're looking.
All part of the process.
Yeah, it's all fun.
That's right. Eric,
stressful, but fun.
Well, and at the beginning of the show, and we do have to go to break, but at the beginning of the show, we talked about this kind of hurry up and wait mentality, which I imagine is a big part of being a real estate agent these days, because you find it somebody finds it online. We need to see it right now. Okay, now you need to quickly make a decision and then wait a little bit and then make your next. I mean,
there's a lot of that hurry up and wait, but I always tell my clients, look, here's the reality, and yes, you need to make a decision by then. But I tell them way before the beginning of the process, the one thing they should never feel is to be stressed out to make a fast decision. So it's okay if they can't respond to that question. And if they need that time, it's our job as a realtor to try to get that across and explain it to the other party. Hopefully they'll wait. And if they don't, I'm still not going to pressure my buyer and say, you have to do this. It's like They have to do it when it's right for them.
Well, and not knowing what you don't know does create a stressful situation for just about anybody.
Right, and if I'm doing my job right, which I like to say I do.
I think you do, Eric.
I make sure that they do have a lot of those answers, because that's where I'll rush and get all the answers for them so we can lay it out so they are making informed decisions.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for joining us. We do have to go to break. Stick around for just a few minutes. We'll get some more opinions on the current real estate market and the hurry up and wait.
Okay.
All right, we'll be right
you.
back.